Lærere, forældre og UU-vejledere fortæller os konstant, at det karaktergennemsnit, vi som unge får på vores ungdomsuddannelse, er altafgørende for de valgmuligheder, vi har for videregående uddannelse. Derfor råder de os til at smøre ærmerne godt og grundigt op og knokle igennem i 2 eller 3 år for at skaffe et brugbart snit. 2 eller 3 år, det er altså længe at holde dampen op konstant. Kan man overhovedet det? Nogen kan måske, og forhåbentlig så er det både dig og mig. Men hør lige her, det er altså ikke alt, man kan knokle sig til. Noget af resultatet ligger også i vores alder. Ifølge flere undersøgelser viser det sig nemlig, at unge får det bedste snit på deres ungdomsuddannelse, hvis de afslutter, når de er 19. Er vi så for unge til at starte? Jeg hedder Sofie, og jeg er i hvert fald for ung til at starte. Alt for ung. Starter jeg min ungdomsuddannelse direkte efter 9. klasse, vil jeg nemlig starte på den dag, hvor jeg fylder 16. Og vælger jeg at knokle her i 3 år, ja, så vil jeg formentlig slutte, når jeg er 18. Jeg og mit snit kunne altså ifølge flere undersøgelser have godt af at stoppe op og give mig selv tid til at blive lidt ældre. Altså, jeg mener ældre, inden jeg lader mig fylde med lektier, undervisning, lektier, afleveringer, lektier, oplæg, lektier og måske et par enkelte gymnasiefester. Derfor har jeg besluttet ikke at gå den lige vej. Lyder det ikke fristende, nemt og lige til? Er det ikke bare at leve livet? Kan det være svært? Kan det på nogen måde blive en kilde til konflikt og frustration? Det burde det ikke. Men faktum er, at mange unge alligevel oplever frustration, når de vælger alternativt. De kan slet ikke finde ud af, at de ikke er omgivet af lærere og UU-vejledere, der kan hjælpe og guide dem konstant. Derfor ender mange unges alternative år efter 9. klasse med Netflix, dyner og junkfood. Det vil jeg helst ikke ud i, og derfor har jeg sat mig for at finde ud af, hvordan jeg kan bruge året efter 9. klasse, så jeg bliver mere moden, men samtidig heller ikke sænker mit faglige niveau, og ej heller mister lysten til at lære. I denne udsendelsesrække skal du derfor se hele 10 forskellige bud på, hvad du og jeg kan lave efter 9. klasse. Velkommen til Mulighederne efter 9. klasse.
Jeg har efterhånden mødt flere og flere mennesker, der mener, at den internationale skole den er noget for sig. De her mennesker de er fascineret af skolen, fordi undervisningen foregår på engelsk, men også fordi elever bliver sat i klasse sammen på trods af forskellige modersmål og forskellige kulturer. Den her specielle og eftertragtede skole, den vil jeg vildt gerne prøve at opdage. Og derfor så har jeg faktisk fået en aftale i hus, som jeg skal på Clemens-skole i Aalborg. Jeg har fået lov til at følge både headmaster og elever, og så har jeg fået lov til at være en del af skolen.
So my name is Jenny Rose Thompson. I'm the head of the international department here at Skipton School. I've been head since 2004, but I've been at the school since it started in 2001, so a long time. And you've asked how do I feel about letting children of different backgrounds enter stage 10 and 11. This is a school where we have an open door policy, so we have children from many different backgrounds coming in all times through the school education. But of course it gets more difficult the higher up you go, so by the time you get to stage 10 and 11, it is difficult for students to come if their background is very different.
I'm Daniel. I've been in the school for this year. I joined this year.
in terms of requirement to be part of the international school, we have an entrance policy, and again, it's an open door policy, so we're here to cater for families coming from overseas primarily. Those are families that can't access Danish education. Maybe their children don't speak Danish. So those are the priority. That's the priority for us. But we're also willing to take in any family that is interested in an international education. So it depends on the wishes of the family. If they're interested, then we consider them. As we go further up the school, it becomes more difficult if you don't have enough English. So we do have entrance tests in English and math for students going into stages 9, 10 and 11. Before that, we take an interview and we talk to the parents and the children to see whether they can manage English.
And I've been a student at the Skipper Clement International School for about 4 years now. No, 4 years.
English background and a Mulighederne exam are very suitable candidates. It really depends on the student. We've had some excellent students from the Danish schools who've managed all the exams in 1 year. That is the exception. So, because there is a demand on a student when you change language, even if you understand the content in one language, to then operate in a different language puts a lot of pressure on the brain. Some students are very good at languages and it's not a problem. For other students, if they're trying to manage that and they haven't covered the content, then it can be difficult. And we generally find with students from Danish schools that maybe their knowledge in science and math is not as high as our students. Language ability is often just as good, so that's not the problem. But if they're trying to manage the stage 10 and 11 math curriculum and the science curriculums, then they have a lot of gaps in their knowledge. I'm not sure I have a typical youngster, but I would say that, of course, when you have families where parents are prepared to pay for a private education, there is pressure from home on the students to do their best. So we tend to have students that are prepared to study and work, but they can come from many different cultures, many different backgrounds.
Mostly, most of us have about one Danish parent and then a parent that was born somewhere else and lived somewhere else for a really long time. So a lot of people speak 2 or 3 languages and have different perspectives and different sort of connections to certain topics that we speak about in class. So it's interesting to have hear different viewpoints on topics.
Language, of course, in an English school, it's not acceptable to swear. So use of bad language in an English school is not allowed, either by the teachers or by the students. So there are some words that you can hear in a Danish school that we would not accept. Yes. Again, with clothing, we have a whole school policy for Skipper Clement School, which says that clothing should be inoffensive. So that means as long as it's clean and it doesn't offend anybody else, so you're not wearing something that is going to cause somebody else offensive, either cultural or religious, then it's okay. In the international school, some of the teachers are quite conservative, so if you have girls who wear very short skirts or that kind of thing, maybe they don't like it so much because they're not used to it from other international schools. But as a department, our policy is the same as our Danish school, so we have the same policy with regard to clothes. And behaviour, of course, we expect students to show respect and to be responsible, so things like respecting each other and respecting the classroom and respecting their books and trying to remember their homework and doing the sorts of things that they're expected to do. But students have to learn to be responsible, so they don't always come responsible, they have to sometimes learn it while they're here. How important is the partnership with the parents? Well, it's very important because I think all the evidence shows that students that have parents that expect something from them, that maybe put a bit of pressure on them to do their homework or their music practice or their sports practice, they're going to go further than students whose parents aren't interested. And generally speaking, in a private school, parents are prepared to pay. Usually that means they do care and they do want something. Sometimes it means they want to wipe their hands of the responsibility. Maybe they're too busy with their own jobs. So you can have parents that don't take an interest in their children at a private school. But clearly, students that have parents, as long as the parents aren't overbearing, the student has to be able to have their own opinion about their own future and their own what's best for them. So it is a question of having a good dialogue with parents and with students. So it's a three-way dialogue: teachers, parents and students.
How do you experience the students' first day at Skipper School?
A new student?
Yeah.
That's very varied. Some students are able to connect very quickly with other students. And this also depends on the type of class they go into. So some classes are very open and welcoming, very happy to have new students. And then those students can have a good time from the beginning. So socially, their sense of well-being, emotional well-being is varied. And of course it's very important that the class is open and welcoming to the other students and the teachers. Other classes can be a little more cold and closed. And then the student might find it more difficult to make friends. So that's hard it's hard to create the right environment, because you have a lot of people that are contributing to the well-being of the new student. We have some policies that we put in place. For example, each student should have a mentor, another student to look after them. We try to choose students that are going to be caring, are going to show them how things are and where to go. And of course the teachers, I think at the beginning of the year, the teachers have it in their minds to welcome new students. One of the difficulties is if the student comes later in the year, when the teacher has already got going with the course, then it can be more difficult for them to find time to make sure the new student is up to date with what they need to do. So it's always good to have students starting at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah. About your first day at Skipper?
No.
Because you know the language?
Yeah, and I've met the people here before as well.
Okay. So you joined the same class?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was your first day at school?
It was fine. It just felt like a normal day at school.
Okay, well that sounds great. How do you make sure the students are getting a good start at your school?
Well, we have, it's a good question, because we have some policies. The question is if they are always in place.
Yeah.
We do try to, we do testing of new students. So we have the equivalent of co-TC, we call it SPU coordinator, and she'll do some just academic tests to make sure that they are at the right level.
Did you worry about your first day at school?
Sort of, yeah, because it was weird because it would be the first time that I'd spoken English in a while, going to school.
Yeah.
But I was also pretty excited because I'd be able to learn in English and speak to people in English. There's always tons of lessons every day, like a lot more compared to what they do in the public school. And it feels like, on the one hand, I feel a little bit jealous, but on the other hand, it's nice to know that I'm learning all of these things and that I'm getting a lot more knowledge to use for later in life than just getting the bare minimum that I need to pass as an adult.
And in what way does the school prepare the youngster for education?
outside, beyond the school.
Yeah.
Well, moving forward into their final years, they have different information that comes to them from UU Aalborg, which is the youth advisor.
Yeah.
So they have class meetings that involve the parents. Now, we also have uddannelsesparatbedring, which is a Danish system which is 9.klasse, and we use it in stage 9, where all the teachers have to make a judgment as to whether the students are working at the right level and going in the right direction.
Okay, so in most lessons I understand what it's about, but in some lessons like physics, I'm not good at that, so I find that quite difficult.
I always feel like I understand what's going on, and if I don't understand what's going on, then typically the teachers are ready to help and are really good at helping me understand and explain things to me.
Well, we don't have any creative lessons in the school. We don't do cooking or art.
What are the reasons why parents have to spend 2,000 crowns per month if they want their children to join school?
Yep. Well, there are different issues here. One is the economy of the school.
Yeah.
So this school is lucky in the sense that it has the only international departments in the region.
Yeah.
And that means it can make money out of that department.
Yeah.
Okay, this is it's a business proposition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So that's one reason, but the actual fees in the international department in the beginning, they were put high because the classes weren't full. So we had less than 20 students in each class. And that means that the income coming in for the class is lower than for a class in a normal school.
Yeah.
We have a low ratio in this school, 1 to 20 in the junior department.
Yeah.
It goes up to 1 to 24 in the seniors.
Okay.
But that means that some of our classes it's actually hard for the school to make a profit because the money is spent on teachers.
Yeah.
And in the international department, in the old days, we didn't have full classes, so we had to pay the teachers' wages. And actually the number of lessons and the ratio of teacher to student is what determines the price level in most cases.
Okay, what's your goal with this education?
I want to learn as many languages. Like we have a lot of languages. I want to learn as many languages and as many different subjects as possible.
Well, with the one now which I'm in, I want to maybe high level academically, so I can find it easy for the next school.
Thank you.
Ja, den internationale skole, den er virkelig noget for sig. Efter at arbejde med den her skole, så kan jeg faktisk godt forstå, at så mange mennesker har lyst til at være en del af skolen. Jeg fik i hvert fald selv virkelig lyst til at snakke engelsk i år, selvom det selvfølgelig vil kræve en masse arbejde. Jeg glæder mig til, at vi ses næste gang.